we'll get to him right now. I might as well get to it. I mean, many of y'all know. Okay, first of all, this whole trend of NFL coaches, well, NFL players, Hall of Famers in particular, coaching at HBCUs have been, mixed bag, but mostly in the positive way, right? We all know what Coach Prime did at Jackson State, right? He was there for 2.5 years or 3 years.
2.5 years,
Mhm.
3 seasons, if you
Right.
want to be technical
There you go,
about
3 seasons. That's what I was looking for. He
Yeah.
went 27-5 at Jackson State, and we all know the great things that he did there, helping elevate the profile of not only Jackson, but it's just swag, to be honest with you. And he went 27-5 there, and before that landed him a job at Colorado. We debated the departure, how he handled said departure, and but that's that's not here nor there at this point. But aside from Deion Sanders, you had Eddie George, who's still grinding at Tennessee State, turning that program around, doing positive things there. You have like Coach Eddie Robinson Jr., who's at his alma mater at Alabama State University, doing pretty well, turning that around, playing hardball there, as well as coach, a former coach, Hugh Jackson, is trying to do the damn thing at Grambling State. He's doing positive things there as well. And I think there's one that I think I want to say Prairie View, Bubba McDowell, right?
Bubba McDowell at Prairie View A&M.
Yeah,
yes.
there you go.
Uh-huh.
So he's also doing positive things there. So this is not necessarily anything new. It's just that Deion Sanders was the only one of a higher profile, the highest profile, if you will, to do it and do the job well. So that led to, as you can obviously imagine, that it's going to lead, if one program, especially a rival program in said conference, sees that other schools having successes going to a certain degree high in head, looking for a certain pedigree in the head coach, they're going to do the same thing, right? As they say, imitation is the ultimate form of flattery.
Yeah.
So enter Bethune-Cookman University, hiring one Hall of Famer, Ed Reed, who's arguably the best safety of all time, right? So he gets he gets the job and everything. So he said in the video, where shortly after he was hired, and I have a quote here, just a little excerpt I'm reading here on the Daytona Beach News and Journal. Quote, Prime was not wrong about what he was saying. I know a lot of HBCUs need help. I'm just here to help first. I see it too clearly. All of our HBCUs need help, and they need help because of the people who's running it. It's broken mentalities out here. End of quote. Of course, they have people thinking a certain kind of way. I'm pretty sure you felt a certain kind of way, being that we're both Aggies, A&T Aggies, proud Aggies, right? But then I guess from the backlash, he responded. I think I don't know if it was Instagram Live or something like that. I think it was Instagram Live. While he was picking up trash around the facility, around the complex, while he and his players, he basically just, I'm not going to go into what he said. He just went off a whole bunch of expletives. I'm pretty sure you see it, Dwayne. I'm pretty sure most of us in the HBCU world also see it, right? And so, which led to, and also, this is the money quote, I should leave. I'm not even under contract doing this. And then, of course, he apologized. Later, he said, this is a quote, in regards to my social media and comments about the university, staff, and other institutions, I would like to sincerely apologize to all BCU staff, students, and alumni for my lack of professionalism. My language and tone were unacceptable as a father, coach, and leader. My passion for our culture, betterment in bringing our foundation up got the best of me, and I fell victim while engaging with antagonists on social media as well. I am fully aware of the hardworking folks at our school who are also fighting to make things better and more financially sound. I'm encouraged from my communication with my AD and our administration and understand it's a work in progress. My passion is about getting and doing better. That goes for you too. And quote, and by your judging by your expressions, by your gestures right now, you ain't buying this shit. So here's the thing. Someone got to him
Yes, they
I don't
did.
know if it's Reggie Theus. I don't know the NBA great Reggie Theus, who's an athletic director. I don't
Hmm.
know if it's administration. I don't know who did it, but someone got to
Hmm.
him and made him release that statement. Now, this is because it's going to potentially affect a recruiter in the negative way because the first thing players are going to be like, why the hell we want to come here? If it's dirty. And I know he complained about his office not being set up and clean and everything else. So this reminded me of what Coach Prime did when he said that people robbed him in his office or whatever, took his
Yeah.
stuff and whatever. So I was hoping to have other people on tonight to help us break this down, but I think me and you can handle this. So I'm gonna get the floor to you because I know you have a lot to say. I'm kind of like at a loss of words, but let me just hear your thoughts and I'll just vibe off.
Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning. I probably will end up reiterating several things that you've said, but I want to start
Sure.
from the absolute beginning and then get to where we are right now.
Right.
So remember when Dion was hired and the fanfare that went along with it, everyone
Yeah.
was excited, and then shortly thereafter, Tennessee State brought
Right.
in Eddie George,
Right.
and oh my God, and don't forget, Morgan State already had Tyron Wheatley there.
That's correct. Yes. Yes.
And oh, don't forget. Well, no, you know what? I'm not even gonna get to him just yet. But um, so there was an excitement going around the HBCU sports. Oh my God, these NFL greats are coming back. As a matter of fact, shortly after that, you had Reggie Theus come to Bethune-Cookman, Mo Williams going to Alabama State.
Right.
What's your boy's name? Oh my God, that's that Lamoy Owen. Ah man, the head coach basketball. I can't remember what his name is when I see his face. Oddly enough, my God, you got Juan Dixon up at Coppin State.
Right.
My God, what's the other point guard? Used to play at Georgia Tech. That's
Not Kenny Anderson.
I want to say it's Kenny Anderson. Yes, it is Kenny Anderson.
Oh, okay. Where's
He's
he at?
down in God, I can't remember. He's in the I want to say he's in the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference.
Okay.
That's the NAIA level school.
Right.
I just can't remember what the institution is off the top of my head, but you had all of these great athletes coming to HBCUs and becoming head coaches.
Right.
And everyone was clamoring, "Ooh, I want one! I want one!" And then, of course, the names Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Marshall
Yep.
Falk, all of those names were tossed out as potential hires at HBCUs. Took some time, but Bubba McDowell became a hire. Actually, he was an assistant at Prairie View A&M before stepping up into the head coaching role. And then all of a sudden, we get Ed Reed.
Right.
But what a lot of people forgot, like I said before, we already had Tyron Wheatley at Morgan State. You had Rod Milstead that won Super Bowls with the 49ers at Badell State, his alma mater. You
Yep.
had Reggie Barlow at one point in time that was at Virginia State. You had Flea Harrell, who was the head coach at Howard, who ended up being at Jackson State and is now followed Coach Sanders up to Colorado. So there were pro guys that were already at HBCUs, but everybody wanted their own Dion.
Yeah. They wanted their own unicorn.
Everybody wanted their own unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, Bethune-Cookman gets their unicorn. But I'm gonna be real with you, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
I think we may have talked about it before on the show. Remember years ago, we were probably in our early to mid-teens. Ringling Brothers, Barnum, and Bailey Circus had their unicorn.
Mm.
Only to turn out that it was a horse with a horn taped to its forehead.
What they say, a sucker is born every minute?
Yes, right? And unfortunately, Coach Reed showed us this past weekend that his horn is a little wobbly.
Mm-hmm.
Because to his own words, he was responding on social media to a lot of the responses to him complaining about the things that were wrong at Bethune-Cookman.
Mm.
Things that stood out to me the most. The fact that, one, my man was working on the free. So he's basically working as a volunteer for Bethune-Cookman for 8 days.
Right.
Really? Interesting. Cool. But I digress, right? I guarantee you that's something Coach Prime didn't teach him to do. Speaking of, that was a question that I most definitely wanted to ask Coach Prime before he left. God, you could almost call me a little Nostradamus. Because I was wondering, because so many fans were clamoring for another pro athlete to come to a HBCU and be a head coach. One, if he had spoken to some of his friends about it, if he had spoken to some of his friends who were thinking about coaching at HBCUs, and if they were, what did he tell him about his experience? Unfortunately, I never got a chance to ask that question. But
that would have been one hell of a question for him to ponder.
And
his response to that.
And I'm intrigued to find out what his response is. But I guess we kind of got a little bit of what he said based upon what Ed Reed said on Sunday.
Yep. That's a good point. Right.
And what befuddles me is that Ed Reed had a lot to say. Well, Coach Reed had a lot to say about the facilities, about the grounds. My thing is, bruh, you didn't take a tour of the college before you accepted the position?
Yeah.
You didn't see
Coach Prime actually at least toured it, right?
He most definitely went to Jackson, took a tour of the campus, saw what he had to work with, was disappointed with what he had to work with. But you know what he did? He had a solution and he ended up fixing it.
Right.
All I saw on Sunday were complaints about what hadn't been done at Bethune-Cookman before he got there. Now, what I'm not going to say is, and while doing so, basically said, to your point, that, well, not to your point, but to basically reiterating what he said, basically that HBCU leadership, basically athletic directors, were dealing with broken mentalities.
Yep.
Now, while clamoring for these head coaches and basically clamoring for these celebrities to come to our institutions, Coach Prime said it best when he was hired at Jackson State. He said that, you want this shine. You want this exposure. The thing is, though, you have to be leery, and I'm paraphrasing him, you have to be leery of what is going to be, what the light is going to shine on. So basically, you have to be leery of what's going to be exposed. That's exactly what Ed Reed did. He basically exposed all of the ills that, well, not even all of them, but some of the ills that's going on down at Bethune-Cookman, as it pertains to their football field and their workout space and things of that nature. Let's be real, Ed. Number one, the reason why you were brought there was to, well, one, win games. Two, fix those ills.
Yep.
I needed you to be aware of those things before you even got hired. Well, before you decided to take the job. And it seems to me that you didn't know that.
Yeah. That's problematic if he didn't know.
Yeah, that's the part that boggles my mind too.
Yeah.
That, bro, you didn't know this before you got hired?
Yeah.
And you were basically working there to try to get things fixed and get things set up so that you can get ready for your off season. 2 or 3, social media is not necessarily your friend unless it's one-sided.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to go ahead and let you know that right now, Coach.
And it's devoid of context too. So it's like, I mean, it's just some situations where it's like someone could, if they say like a tweet, they could misread the tweet any other way.
Yeah.
So it's very dangerous there too. But go ahead.
No, I take that back. Social media can be your friend. It can also be your worst enemy too.
Right.
But and that goes for number 4, the unprofessionalism of everything.
Yeah.
Goes back to the whole goat with the taped on horn. Yo, they're expecting this Hall of Famer, a guy unlike Prime who actually has experience on a coaching staff, coming into Bethune. And I mean, we already know he's not as polished as
No, it's not.
Sanders. And I'm not talking about his demeanor. I'm talking about the way that he handles media.
Mhm.
Yeah, his phrasing, his responses, everything was just extremely unprofessional.
Right.
And then to attack all HBCUs in your rant
Yeah.
was very disrespectful and disheartening to a lot of HBCU alums. Matter of fact, Scott, I know that you wanted to touch on it a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and read this tweet from Coach Tamika Reed, the women's basketball coach over at Jackson State.
Yeah.
Coaching at an HBCU is not for the weak. You're going to fight battles internally and externally. And if your program experiences any type of success, it will be even harder. I choose to come back for the fight, to truly even the playing field and do something that never had been done. Kudos to you, Coach Reed. Now, this is one tweet that I got, and I'm glad that she tweeted this out. I'll reveal who it is after I read the tweet. Because of course it goes back to the comment of broken mentalities at HBCUs.
Right.
The tweet reads, not broken mentalities, but at times broken funding, broken external promises, and broken consistency of processes. As an HBCU alumna and former AD, there are good people working in these institutions. They need support and recognition just like the students. Tell you who sent out that tweet there, Scott. That will be one Dr. China L. Jude. Do you know who that is?
Please enlighten us.
Okay, Dr. Jude is the Vice President of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with the Denver Broncos. Now, Dr. Jude, actually, like she said, she is an alumna of an HBCU. She played volleyball at Alabama State. Served as an AD at Cheney State. Served as an associate AD at where was this? I just saw it at Coppin State. I'm sorry, she got her she started at Coppin, went on to be an AD at Cheney, was a head coach at UDC women's basketball. So she spent extensive amount of time at HBCUs. And you know, I was hoping that more ADs and coaches would come out to speak on this, and I'm glad that some did. And I don't know if they actually reached Coach Reed directly, but someone reached him. That's why he ended up sending out his apology message. Now, am I saying that everything is right at HBCUs? No. I know that all.
I got a story about that in a second, but go ahead. I got a story about that. Yeah, personal
I
story.
know that all of the ills aren't necessarily led up to just the the bad finances and the money that's owed to a lot of state HBCUs by the state. Yes, there are some instances where bad decisions are made.
Yes.
But you know what, Coach Reed? We're hoping that with your expertise, we can turn things around instead of just complaining about it. So, yeah, the biggest thing that bothered me was the fact that you just basically complained, and with your complaints, you had no solutions.
Right.
Now that you've done your complaining, I would love to see what your solutions are, Coach.
Right. Yes. Bingo. Because I was about to say the same thing. What's your end game? It's like the same thing. Sometimes I'd hear, I know that he's a controversial figure right now. Emmanuel Acho. People disagree with him writing a book and parlaying that book into a web series of like uncomfortable conversations with a black man. I heard people say that's too accommodating. I heard people say that he's too soft. It seems goes along the same thing that you say. There are complaints. Where are their solutions? And oddly enough, none of those cats had any solutions to a mariacho. Now, granted, I don't agree with all what he says on this TV show on Fox, on FS1, I should say, called Speak, formerly Speak for Yourself. But I do admire what he's doing. And, the reason, again, even the things I don't agree with, I don't say anything because I don't really have a tangible solution. So I just shut the hell up and keep it moving, right? So I just think that, and I hope, I mean, this is I know this is a very harsh teacher moment for Ed Reed. And I hope that he gets everything in order so he can be successful. But man, as a 40-some-year-old man, that's something you just don't do. That's something that homeboys of ours in college would say.
Yeah.
As 20-year-olds.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be saying those same things, hopefully, as a 40-something.
Hopefully, right?
A grown man.
But even if you are, you're
Mm-hmm.
not the leaders of young men.
Right.
At an institution of higher learning.
Right.
And that's where that comes in.
Right.
Like I said before, I'm not going to completely berate Coach Reed on what he said, because they're issues and they're legitimate issues.
Right.
But that's not the way to handle that, bruh. It's not. A lot of people came out, like I know a lot of my HBCU alum friends complained about the fact that he came out and complained in public.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily a fan of that, but I will say this. My thing is, when you do that, again, you need to come with a solution so that you can get the help of the public to solve said issue.
Right.
Because when you do that, all you do is just berate HBCUs and have everyone just discredit everything that they've done. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you've grouped everyone together, now everyone supposedly only has a horrible track, or everyone has bad fields. Everyone's a hoarder at HBCUs, and that's not the case. So, there is some truth in what he said, but that's just not the way that you handle it.
Right. And yeah, and that's because we mentioned the names earlier. Mm-hmm. Eddie Robinson Jr., going back to his alma mater, right?
I forgot about Eddie Robinson Jr., another pro football player, played in the league for 12 years.
Yes. He
went back to his alma mater. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Mr. Swag himself.
Yeah.
But no one champions Eddie Robinson outside of Alabama State, which is sad.
But I mentioned his name and like Eddie George.
Yes.
Hugh Jackson. But I mentioned their names because I'm sure they encountered some roadblocks. I'm sure they encountering present tense, some hurdles.
Yes.
But have they said anything?
No.
In public? No.
No.
Because they're grown-ups, number one, and two, they know how to handle it as grown-ups, as professionals. That's why you don't hear anything. So what they're doing the work. They're grinding. And I mean grinding. And God bless them for grinding. Mm-hmm. Now, as a result, I don't know how long ago Prairie View updated their facilities, which looks spectacular. For those of you who hadn't seen it online, you need to take a look at it. But I'm sure Bubba McDowell's presence has some of that. Like, I know that Tennessee State's looking to do some things with Eddie George there. I'm sure Eddie George has something to do with that. Alabama State has pretty damn good facilities. I'm pretty sure Eddie Robinson Jr.'s presence as a former NFLer, solid player for the Tennessee Titans, and I believe the Jacksonville Jaguars, has something to do with that. Grambling State stepping up.
Yeah.
They revamped their locker room. Looks great. I don't know if you've seen their locker room lately, but it's a far cry from when they made Sports Illustrated, I guess, for the wrong
back
reasons.
In 2013. Yeah, for the wrong reasons.
They look great, dude. And I'm sure Hugh Jackson has something to do with that. It's all about solutions. If you have a solution, look, I'm sure they made complaints. I'm sure all those coaches I mentioned, and many more who never were in the NFL. I'm sure they made complaints. I'm sure
Vincent
they read up
Brown,
the
the new
process.
hire at A&T, is next on that list.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Vincent
there you
Brown
go.
played 9 years in the league. He played all his time under Bill Parcells.
Oh
So yeah,
wow. So
yeah.
the Parcells coach, that's even better. So I'm sure they've experienced some complaints. I'm sure they made complaints. I'm sure they experienced some pushback.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't know it because I hadn't said anything. They're grinding. They're doing what they can to improve the situation. Now I'll say this: as much bemoaning as many people did about Coach Prime during his tenure, he did do some great things at Jackson State. There's no denying it. Their facilities, the locker room. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God! So he did it.
Yeah.
He did his part. He had the what's his name? Plank, the CEO of Under Armour, come down to speak to the student athlete, to his players.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said this too, that they were one of a handful, maybe one or two schools in Division One. Period. That's FCS and FBS, one or two.
Mm-hmm.
The other one being Oregon, that had a different outfit combination week after week after week.
Yeah, they had the second most in terms of collegiate football teams, all levels, right behind Oregon. But
Yeah.
yeah, to your point, I'll say this, and the fans know, Coach Prime has most definitely been vocal about a lot of things that he saw that was wrong at Jackson State within the city of Jackson and within the state of Mississippi.
Yeah.
The thing is, the majority of the time, he came through with a solution.
Right.
And of course, Ed Reed most definitely looked up to Coach Prime. They played together in Baltimore. I guarantee you they talked before Ed took the job over with Bethune-Cookman. I guarantee it. Mm-hmm. And probably before getting that video, he most definitely had a lot of vitriol, not only about what he saw, but a lot of vitriol based on the responses that Coach Prime got for leaving Jackson State.
Yeah.
And let it
Sharp has
all
some words
out.
on that too. Who's also an HBCU alumnus from Savannah State.
Yeah.
He had a lot to say about that too, but go ahead.
Yeah, so he let all of that out. Then wrong time, wrong place.
Right.
And again, if he decides to stay, I'm hoping this is a learning process for him.
Mm-hmm.
That
I hope he does. And I hope he does stay, because that would be a bad look for him. I'm sure. I mean, he's a former Wraith.
Mm-hmm.
He's a former Hurricane. I'm sure he's going to stick it out. I'm sure he's going to put his nose to the grind and do it, because that's going to be a bad look if he doesn't do it just because he didn't like what he saw. Because to your point, he and Coach Prime more than likely talked about it.
Yeah.
So it's not like he didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But continue.
Well, that is the one thing though. I do believe that Coach Prime never did get an opportunity to go to Bethune-Cookman's campus and play there. Well, I'm sorry, coach there, because the one game that was supposed to be played at Daytona was played in Jacksonville, but that's another story for another time. Right. But still, Ed should have taken a tour of that campus and did not. And the way it seems to me, he didn't take a tour of that campus. If he was still complaining about it at that point. But again, hopefully it's a learning process. They get the things done that they need done there, and he's capable of turning that program around. Because once they got into the SWAC, 4 wins total was tough for them.